Okay, good morning, everyone. We are going to go over the Topic 5 review for 6th grade, and I'm going to show you kind of the work for each problem broken into a couple of videos. So, starting with number 1 on your Topic 5 review, we're going to use our paper here to do the work and read the question. So, the question for number 1 is a preschool student or a preschool has a student to teacher ratio of 5 to 2. So we need to start with that ratio already. So I'm going to write that as a fraction, 5 to 2. So that means students is 5, all right, and the teachers is 2. Now, you could use S&T for that too. The total number of students and teachers was 56 last year. That's the total number altogether, and is 70 this year. How many students and teachers were there for each of these 2 years? So notice that these two give you a total altogether, right? And so when you do your choices, the first thing you have to check for is, are the totals correct? So like choice A for last year, if you have 40 teachers plus 16 students, that's 56 for last year. So that checks out. How about the next one? 50 teachers and 20 students for this year. That would be 70. Yep, that checks out as well. Okay, so we can check for A. What we do then is we use our 5 to 2, right? And we want to get it to be, this says now you got to be careful, 40 teachers and 16 students. So when we set it up, we have to do it so that it matches. So 40 teachers would go on the bottom and 16 students would go on the top. All right. And so you want to think about this in the easiest terms possible, right? So 2 times what number would get me 40? Well, we would have to times that by 20 here, right? So is that the same for the top? Is 5 times 20 16? No, it is not. So right away, we know that A is not the answer, okay? So now we're going to move on to B, and I'm going to use a different color so that we can kind of keep track. So B says 16 teachers to 40 students. So first of all, that adds up to our 56, so that's good. And then 20 teachers to 50 students, yep, that adds up to our 70. So now let's check this again. We have 5 students, again, that's how we're starting here, to 2 teachers. And we're seeing if this equals now this 16 teachers. So again, that's teachers that goes on the bottom, and 40 students. Okay, so 2 times what number would give us 16? That would be timesing by 8. Is 5 times 8 also 40? Yes, so that one does indeed check out. But that doesn't mean that B is the answer yet. We also have to check the next one. So the next one is 20 teachers to 50 students. So in this case, we start over again, right? 5 students over 2 teachers. And we're seeing, does that equal then now 20 teachers? So we're lining that up, teachers with teachers, to 50 students. Ooh. Now, it doesn't really matter if you start on the top or the bottom. Up here, I started on the bottom because I didn't know in my head 5 times what number gave me 16, but I could figure out 2 times 20 was 40. So down here, I can start at the bottom or the top because I know both of these. 5 times what number is 50? Well, that would be times 10. Is 2 times 10 also 50 or 20? Yeah, it is. So this one, we know B is the correct answer. Yay. And there's the work for it. Okay, next one. So this is going to be broken into a couple of videos because this does take quite a while. Even though this is only going to be an 11 question test, that's going to probably take you all hour if you're doing it correctly because it takes some work. Okay, let's move on to number 2. So number 2, I'm going to slide this up so we can see it. And I'm going to keep my work next to it. So number 2 says Jose is using 12 brown tiles and 8 white tiles to design a section of an outdoor patio. Which ratio compares the number of brown tiles to the total number of tiles in one section? So this is where you really have to read, right? So the ratio is going to compare the number of brown tiles, so that's what's going to go first, to the total number of tiles, right? It's not using the white tiles in here, right? So let's start with the number of brown tiles is 12. That's here. So that's got to go first. So already, right, we know that it can be A or C. B and D, it cannot be because it doesn't start with a 12. Now we move on. The total number of tiles has to be next. So this only tells us the white tiles are 8 white tiles. So the total number of tiles would be 8 plus 12, right? This 8, and then we have to add that 12, and that total would be 20. And so we know our answer is going to be answer choice C. Okay, so far so good. Let's keep going. Number 3. Now we have a table already, so before you even start, if you look at the table, you can kind of figure out what's going on. Party affiliation, even if you don't know that word, you can look and go, oh, Republicans, Democrats, Independent, okay? And the number of senators that are in there. All right, let's go. Let's read the question. So the question says this. The table shows the party affiliation of 100 senators of the 109th Congress. The ratio of Republicans to Democrats is 5-4. How many senators are Democrats? Independents. Okay, so there's 100 senators in total, right? And it says the ratio of Republicans to Democrats is 5-4. So let's start with that. So number 3, let's write that ratio as a fraction. So, and it always goes in order. So Republicans is top. 5 Republicans for every 4 Democrats. Okay. Now, it tells you down here that there are 55 Republicans, right? So again, if I set this equal, right, when I'm doing it equal, when I'm not converting anything, I match up the units. So I want Republicans to be here and Democrats to be here. So I know there are 55 Republicans. It tells me that in the table. So what I'm trying to figure out is how many Democrats. So the way we do that is we go, okay, 5 times what number would get me 55? So in my mind, I got to think about that. So times 11, 5 times 11 is 55. Now, remember, what you do to the top, you must do to the bottom. So 4, we got to times that by 11 to give us 44 Democrats. Okay, so we can fill that in here. Okay, but now we have only Republicans and Democrats, right? We do not have independent here. So that's where we have to use this piece of information. There are 100 total senators, right? And then that 109th, we're not using that information. That's naming the Congress. So if there's 100 total senators, 55 are Republican, 44 are Democrat, what are left to be independent? So what you would want to do is add that up. Well, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can add that up, 55 plus 44, right? And you get 99. And then if there's 100 of them that are senators, well, 100 minus 99 is 1. So that means there's only one independent senator left. You could have done 100 minus 55 minus 54 all in one swoop, and that would have done the same thing. I don't know why this little box is here because it doesn't say to explain. So just fill those in. Okay, good. 1 through 3. We're all set on 1 through 3. Let's end the video and then we'll do the next section in another video.